Alexa, what's the weather for Australia?
In Sydney, Australia, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly clear skies. Tonight, you can look for lots of clouds with showers, with a low of 50 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for Singapore?
In Singapore, it's 88 degrees Fahrenheit with intermittent clouds. Tonight, you can look for clouds with thunder showers, with a low of 78 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for Auckland, New Zealand?
Right now in Auckland, New Zealand, it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit with intermittent clouds. Tonight's forecast has just a few clouds in the sky, with a low of 53 degrees.
Alexa, what exhibit is that the Met?
I missed something.
Alexa, what's the weather for Auckland, New Zealand?
Right now in Auckland, New Zealand, it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit with intermittent clouds. Tonight's forecast has just a few clouds in the sky, with a low of 53 degrees.
Let's see.
And that was Radio Dot.
Yes.
Alexa,
What was it?
what's the weather for Sydney, Australia?
Right now in Sydney, Australia.
Alexa, what's the weather for Queensland, Australia?
Which city in Queensland?
Cityville.
Here's what I found.
Alexa, what's the forecast for Queensland, Australia?
Which city in Queensland?
Alexa, what are the cities in Queensland, Australia?
Here's something I found on the web. According to popflock.com, Queensland is home to many regional cities, the most populous being the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, Townsville, Cairns, Toowoomba, Mackay, Rockhampton, and Bundaberg.
Alexa, what's the weather in Mackay?
Right now in Mackay, Australia, it's 52 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies. Throughout the night you can expect more of the same, with a low of 48 degrees.
I know you've got a lot.
Mackay, huh? Interesting.
Alexa, what's the weather for Jakarta?
Currently, in Jakarta, Indonesia, it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit with partly sunny skies. Tonight, you can expect cloudy skies moving in and out, with a low of 75 degrees.
What about Key West, Florida?
Alexa, what's the weather in Key West, Florida?
In Key West, Florida, it's 84 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies. Today, you can look for some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 89 degrees and a low of 82 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for Atlanta, Georgia?
Right now in Atlanta, Georgia, it's 73 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 89 degrees and a low of 72 degrees.
What about Belgium?
Alexa, what's the weather for Salah?
In Sun, Louisiana, it's 78 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. In Brussels, Belgium, it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today, you can look for partly sunny weather, with a high of 75 degrees and a low of 54 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for Motococho?
Right now in Mexico City, Mexico, it's 63 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. Today's forecast has some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 76 degrees and a low of 56 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for rain in Mexico?
Sorry, I didn't get that location.
What about Ixtapa?
Alexa, what's the weather in Ixtapa?
Right now in Estepa, Spain, it's 86 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. Throughout the day you can expect more of the same, with a high of 96 degrees and a low of 66 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather in Bermuda?
In Hamilton, Bermuda, it's 77 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies. Today, you can look for intermittent clouds, with a high of 84 degrees and a low of 76 degrees.
What about Bahamas?
Alexa, what's the weather in the Bahamas?
Right now in Nassau, the Bahamas, it's 79 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has partly sunny weather, with a high of 89 degrees and a low of 79
What?
degrees.
I can't sleep.
Can you turn that fan off? I am freezing.
Really?
What's in your hand?
I shake.
Alexa, what's the weather for Jakarta?
Turn off.
Right now in Jakarta, Indonesia, it's
Um,
84 degrees Fahrenheit with partly sunny skies. Tonight's forecast has cloudy
gonna show
skies
me
moving in and
poop or
out,
something?
with a low of 75
What are you
degrees.
showing me? What's in your hand?
My pills, and this is I shaved.
Alexa, what's the weather for Nassau?
Currently, in Nassau, New York, it's 61 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. You can expect more of the
cool,
same
isn't it?
today, with a high of 81 degrees and a low of 54
Alexa,
degrees.
what's the weather in the Bahamas?
In Nassau, the Bahamas, it's
Harvey
79
went
degrees
back in there,
Fahrenheit
Harv?
with partly cloudy skies. Today, you can look for partly sunny weather with a high of 80.
Alexa, what's the forecast for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Nassau, New York, there will be lots of sun, with a high of 82 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 58 degrees.
Alexa, what's the forecast for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Nassau, New York, you'll see lots of sun, and can expect a high of 82
Alexa,
degrees
what's the
Fahrenheit
weather
and a
in
low of
Ireland?
58 degrees.
Right now in Dublin, Ireland, it's 66.
Alexa, what's the weather in Ireland?
Dublin. She's telling you.
Tomorrow in Dublin, Ireland, you'll see
Alexa,
partly
what's
sunny
the
weather.
weather currently?
In Dublin, Ireland, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today, you can look for partly sunny weather, with a high of 70 degrees and a low of 56 degrees.
Alexa, what's the warmest place on Earth today?
Here's something I found on the web. According to sciencemathematics.com, the equator is the warmest place on Earth.
Alexa, what's the forecast for tomorrow?
Forecast for tomorrow in Gardner. Look for lots of
Alexa,
sun with
what's
a
the
high
weather for today?
Currently, in Gardner it's 67 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies. Today, you can expect lots of sun, with a high of 84 degrees and a low of 57 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for today?
Right now in Gardner, it's 67 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly sunny skies. Today's forecast has lots of sun, with a high of 84
Alexa,
degrees
what's
and
the
a...
weather for Gardner, Illinois?
Sorry, I don't know that location.
Alexa, what's the weather for Gardner, Illinois?
Right now in Gardner, Illinois, it's 69 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today's forecast has mostly sunny weather, with a high of 79 degrees and a low of 56 degrees.
Alexa, who was Tristram Coffin?
Tris Coffin.
Alexa, what's the weather for tonight?
This evening, in Gardner, Illinois, you can look for clear skies, with temperatures around 56 degrees Fahrenheit.
Esther who Tristram Coffin is.
Alexa, what's the weather in Orlando, Florida?
This evening, in Orlando, Florida,
Alexa,
you
what's
can
the
look...
weather currently?
Right now in Gardner. it's
Alexa, what's the
67
weather
degrees-
currently?
Currently, in Orlando, Florida, it's 79 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly clear skies. Today, you can expect some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 94 degrees and a low of 78 degrees.
What about California?
Alexa, what's the weather in Los Angeles, California?
Right now in Los Angeles, California, it's 62 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. Today's forecast has mostly sunny weather, with a high of 83 degrees and a low of 6.
What's the weather for Orlando, Florida?
Right now in Orlando, Florida, it's 79 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly clear skies. Today's forecast has some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 94 degrees and a low of 78 degrees.
Oregon.
Alexa, what's the weather for Oregon, Florida?
Sorry, I don't know that location.
Alexa, what's the weather for Oregon?
In Portland, Oregon, it's 61 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly clear skies. Today, you can look for intermittent clouds, with a high of 80 degrees and a low of 57 degrees.
Alexa, what's the forecast for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Portland, Oregon, there will be mostly sunny weather, with a high of 81 degrees Fahrenheit and a...
What's the weather for Auckland, New Zealand?
Tomorrow in Auckland, New Zealand, you'll see lots of clouds, and can expect a high of 63 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 55 degrees.
But Nebraska.
Alexa, what's the weather in Nebraska?
Here's the forecast for tomorrow in Omaha,
Alexa,
Nebraska.
what's the weather currently?
In Gardner,
Alexa, what's the weather currently?
Currently, in Omaha, Nebraska, it's 68 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly clear skies. Today, you can expect partly sunny weather, with a high of 86 degrees and a low of 68 degrees.
Alexa, what's the weather for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Omaha, Nebraska,
Alexa,
you'll
what's
see
the
most...
weather for today?
Currently, in Omaha, Nebraska, it's 68 degrees
Alexa,
Fahrenheit.
what's the weather for Miami, Florida?
currently, in Miami, Florida, it's 82 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies.